Welcome again to the official Colorado Sports Hall of Fame podcast. I'm Dave Plati.
And I'm Jim Saccomano. We are your co-hosts with over 90 years of experience combined working in Colorado sports, myself with the Denver Broncos and Dave with the CU Buffaloes, and both of us with the iconic Denver Bears, among many other experiences.
We have been revealing 150 significant moments in Colorado sports history. The state's 150th birthday is August 1st, the date in 1876 that Colorado was admitted to the Union as a 38th state. A veteran committee ranked the top 50 of those moments, all culled from over 2,000 that have been collected. Those are ranked by 19 people with over 800 years combined of covering and or working in Colorado sports.
We are now in the top 10 of those moments, as we have covered numbers 8 through 150 in our previous podcasts. The top 50 moments were debated and then ranked by the committee. For numbers 51 through 150, we covered all areas of the state and most, if not all, sports, but were still very significant moments. All are archived in the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame website with our podcasts. Just go to coloradosports.org, click on the menu bar, and then top 150 moments or podcasts.
But first, here's two moments in Colorado sports history that weren't in those 150.
On April 17th, 2010, Ubaldo Jimenez threw the first and only to date no-hitter for the Colorado Rockies in a 4-0 win at Atlanta. Jimenez threw 128 pitches, 72 strikes, 56 balls, as he struck out 7, though he walked 6. Braves catcher Brian McCann grounded out to second baseman Clint Barnes for the final out.
And on July 31st, 2010, Colorado outfielder Carlos Gonzalez led off the bottom of the ninth with the Rockies and Chicago Cubs tied at 5. He had already singled, tripled, and doubled, needing a home run to complete the cycle. He smoked the first pitch from Cub reliever Sean Marshall some 450 feet into the right field upper deck to complete the cycle and give the Rockies a 6-5 win. Only 6 players in Major League history hit for the cycle with a walk-off home run. Gonzalez was the 5th. The 6th was also a Colorado Rocky, Nolan Arenado, in 2017, as the Rockies are the only team with 2 players among those 6.
This is Mark Johnson, voice of the Colorado Buffaloes. As we count down the greatest moments in Colorado sports history, it's worth remembering that great sports moments don't just happen. They're built on preparation, resilience, and staying healthy. And in Colorado, a great sports moment can mean something different to everyone, from Hall of Fame athletes to anyone who simply wants to keep moving. Whether you're chasing championships, personal bests, or just a pain-free morning run, the team at CU Sports Medicine and Performance Center delivers exceptional sports medicine care, from prevention and recovery to performance. Founded right here in Boulder, the CU Sports Medicine and Performance Center brings together CU medicine providers and Boulder community health clinicians to provide comprehensive care that's close to home and rooted in the community they serve. Learn more at cusportsmedicincenter.com.
And now our countdown continues.
The number 7 greatest moment in state of Colorado sports history.
This moment spans nearly a month, several within it, and we'll have details with our podcast guest shortly. From September 18th through October 15th, 2007, in what became known as Rocktober, the Colorado Rockies had an incredible run of 21 wins in 22 games to get to the World Series. An 11-game winning streak fronted it that enabled Colorado to catch San Diego for second place in the NL West, forcing a 1-game playoff that the Rockies won to earn the NL wildcard. Colorado then swept Philadelphia and Arizona to get to the World Series and face the Boston Red Sox. Now, at this time, we'd like to welcome our guest for this podcast, the Colorado Rockies manager for the 8 seasons from 2002 to 2009, and the author, technically, you could say, of Rocktober, Clint Hurdle. Welcome, Clint.
How we doing, guys?
Doing great, Clint.
I got a frog in my throat, but that happens, right?
Just don't swallow it.
Well, before we delve in October, Clint, let's briefly go back a little in time. Kansas City selected you out of high school in the first round of the 75 draft. I understand you had a couple of scholarship offers, one even to Harvard. And after a little over 2 years in the minors, you were called up into the majors in September 77. In your first game, you hit a two-run homer in your second at bat against Seattle at Royal Stadium. It was one of the best teams in Royals history with many great players in their only 100-win season. 3 years later, you played in the World Series against Philadelphia. Talk about some of your fond memories from your playing days.
Well, I think anybody would share probably the fact that it all started with, a dream. And actually, in my case, it started with a question. At the age of 5, my dad took me outside to the garage and said, "Hey, got a question for you." And I said, "Okay, Dad, what do you got?" He goes, "You want to play catch?" And I'm 5 years old. I said, "Catch what?" And he goes, "Well, I brought a couple gloves with me from Michigan. I got some baseballs. I thought we'd go out in the backyard and play catch." He goes, "I love the game of baseball. I thought it might be something fun that we could do together and see if it's something that you end up liking to do." Well, 63 years later, I'm still playing catch every now and then. I actually played catch with my dad last January 10th on his 92nd birthday. We call it chase now. It's not the same version of catch that we used to play when we were both a little more agile, a little more good with our throwing. But it all started with a question. You want to play catch? And now I'm 68 and I've got 51 years in the game. And some of the best memories were early on, your first game in the big leagues. You said it, you brought it up. Second at bat, I hit a home run. Mom and dad were there. Sisters were there. You're playing against and with guys that you've talked about in the backyard. You had their baseball cards. A few years later, you're playing in the 1980 World Series with a group of men that have accomplished something pretty special on winning the American League. And you beat the Yankees in a playoff, championship series playoff. And now you're playing on the biggest stage at Veterans Stadium in front of over 70,000 people against the Philadelphia Phillies. There was a couple things along the way, but I think just the fact that you get to the big leagues and then you realize the sacrifices that so many others made on your behalf to help get you there, because there's a lot of fingerprints on success. That's one thing I've always tried to be cognizant of, is that I didn't do it on my own. My dad poured in countless hours with me, hitting, fielding, just coaching, all the way up really until I got to Babe Ruth. And I branched out in Legion Ball with a different manager, in high school with different coaches and managers. But just the love for the game, the respect for the game, and then to get to the big leagues, and actually that dream comes true. And then you come up with new dreams, because once you get there, it is very hard to stay there. But you want to be part of something bigger. And, I started thinking about, gosh, this is a really good club I'm on. Wonder if we could ever win the World Series. Well, we didn't, but we got there. And I think that's always been one of the things I've carried with myself, is that the game is so much bigger than any one individual. And I was fortunate enough to play it at the major league level for 10 years and then coach it and manage it. So I've been very blessed in my journey.
Totally off script here. You mentioned playing catch with your dad. I had an immediate flashback to Field of Dreams. What's your one favorite baseball movie?
Sandlot. There's a bunch of good ones, but with my kids growing up, Sandlot was the one they resonated with, and they actually would ask to watch it, and it would be once, twice a week. Although my son retired from baseball at the age of 4, Christian, to this day, Madison will watch a ball game with me from the first pitch to the last pitch. But we watched that movie over and over and over again. It never ceased to amaze me how many times we would see something new for the first time, even though we had seen the movie multiple times. And actually, we just brought a new member into the family about 5 months ago, a puppy, a Jack Russell puppy, added to the one we already have. And we named him Benny the Jet from Benny the Jet Rodriguez. Mm-hmm. So Sandlot was my favorite, is my favorite because of my family. My personal baseball favorite movie is Major League, the first version. So there you go. Those are my thoughts.
Great.
Those are great thoughts, Clint. Number 31 on our top 50 list was a fireworks night game in Denver in 1979. You were on the opposition that night, the Omaha Royals. A crazy game, to say the least. Omaha scored 10 runs in the fifth inning, but the Bears scored 9, all after 2 outs in the ninth to win 16-14. I would imagine you have some memories, unfavorable as they may be, of that.
Well, little did I know that was just going to set me up for my managerial experience at Coors Field down the road. On finishing games off and how you're never out of a game. But Mile High, it was one of the coolest plays. We were fortunate. In 77 and 79, my full year in 77, a partial year in 79, going back to the American Association plan, the Pelicans were in the league. New Orleans Pelicans were in the league in 77. So we played in the Dome, which was the coolest place ever to play for a AAA player. But then going to Mile High Stadium and playing AAA baseball there against the Bears, they were iconic. The park was, I don't remember if it was full, but it was close to full. It was July 4th. I can remember halfway through the game, we're nothing but high fives and giggles and having a blast. We put 10 on the board and we were boat racing these guys. And there's 2 outs. And you're standing in the outfield, 2 out, you're just, okay, we're going to win. We've basically won. We need 1 more out. And to never get that out, very humbling, very astonishing. Because I can remember when the game was over, many of us just kind of stayed on the field for a second. Just because, what just happened? But it turned out to be one of many dreams where I was either part of a team that left another team on the field in somewhat crazy fashion, or I was left on the field or in the dugout in somewhat crazy fashion.
That's amazing.
Moving forward, after 6 years managing 5 different minor league teams, in 1994, you joined the Rockies organization as a minor league hitting instructor for 3 seasons. Any memorable pupils who coached make those years in the minors instructing the young Rocks make it to the majors?
Oh, sure. Coming up through the minor leagues, Todd Helton, I had as a minor league hitting coordinator. I was with Todd his first professional game in Asheville. Made the trip in for the first week there when we were onboarding him in A-ball. Juan Pierre, Derek Gibson. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Ty Van Berkeley was at AAA at the time that ended up getting back to the big leagues for a time. But there were a handful of guys that went through there. Pierre and Helton would probably be the 2 at the top of the list based on work ethic, effort, passion for the game, respect for the game, the fact they were good teammates, fantastic guys to be around. Quentin McCracken would have been another one that got some big league time that I enjoyed my time immensely spending time with him. Derek Gibson was probably one of the most raw players we ever drafted. Was a football player. Actually got to the big leagues, and I was there for his debut. I think he went 5 for 5 his first big league game. But there wasn't an extended shelf life on his major league career. But those would be the names that immediately jump out to me as far as being a minor league, hitting coordinator, coaching the guys that got to the big leagues. 2 of them made big impacts in Pierre and Help.
Then after 5 seasons as the Rockies hitting coach, you were named manager. When did you first start to want to manage after getting to the bigs? It had to be a dream come true.
Well, it was. It wasn't so much the dream was to be a player, and then the opportunity to become a coach became real. After I got done playing, the Mets gave me my first opportunity to coach in the minor leagues, and I started out at somewhat of an elevated level in the Florida State League, which is high A, as a 30-year-old manager. And after my tenure finished there, I was fired. I got a job in the Rockies as the hitting coordinator. Nick Ballerson hired me. I was a hitting coordinator for 3 years. Baylor hired me to be the hitting coach in 1997. And you don't see that coming. To get hired by Don Baylor, and I think I was his 5th hitting coach in 5 years. And for different reasons, but he landed with me. He gave me an opportunity. I'm forever thankful. And then Jim Leland kept me on for 1 year. And then when Buddy Bell joined us, he kept me on. And the 02 season didn't start like anybody wanted. And we weren't hitting well. And our record was, we were below 500. Then we got 10 games below 500. And there was a couple of conversations along the way that Dan O'Dowd had reached out and said, I need to speak to you. And I knew it was about the poor performance of the offense. And he got to a point where he goes, I need to talk to you now. I said, well, I'm at the dentist office. I'll be home in, an hour. He said, I'll meet you at your house. Give me the address. Well, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he's coming over to fire me. This would have been in late May. In 2002, I called my dad and actually told my dad that, hey, I just got a funny phone call from the general manager. He wants to come to my house. I said, I can't imagine anything good's going to come from this. But it was kind of cool because I thought, well, one of the worst things that can happen to you as a player is you're sent down, released, whatever, and you got to pack your bag and leave in a clubhouse in front of your peers. So I thought, well, if he lets me go in the morning, I won't have to go in today, and I can go do it. I can get the clubbies back, put my bag together next day or whatever. Well, Dan came over to my house and he starts walking through his thought process on our club, where we're coming up short. And I'm just waiting for him to say, I'm going to let you go. The hitting's been abysmal. And he goes, I just let Buddy go this morning. And my reason here is I'm going to ask you to be the interim manager. I was 100% sure I was going to get fired. I was 100% sure that that the managing thing wasn't even on the table. So before that noon had come, I was the manager of the team. I had to call my dad back. The old, guess what happened? And you and Mom need to get on a plane and find your way out here because I'm going to manage a big league ball game tonight in Colorado against the Phillies. So dream come true, I guess, kind of. I had interviewed for a job the previous winter with the Diamondbacks, and Bob Brenly ended up getting the job. But it was a great experience to walk through. Joe Garagiola, Roland Heeman, some iconic baseball men sat me down and walked me through an interview. I didn't get the job, but I was grateful for the experience. So that at least put it on my mind that somebody else thought maybe someday I could be a manager.
That's amazing, Clint.
All right. Now it's Rocktober time. Sacco and I'll kind of go through the whole thing, how it broke out. And Clint, we're going to have you comment throughout. So it's September 17th. Florida dealt the Rockies a third loss in a row and dropped the team's record to 76 and 72. You're 4.5 games out of the last wild card spot, but I went back and looked at the standings, and as I remembered, you're chasing no less than 8 teams at that point with better records. Now, 2 of them are going to win their divisions, but to make up that difference with 14 games to play is fairly uncommon in itself. But to beat 6 of those 8 teams that didn't win the division was really unheard of. How hard was it to remain positive at that point, and what started the process to turn things around?
Well, it's not like a switch was hit then when we went to 76 and 72. This team really caught traction the year before, the way we finished the 2006 season. And I think the exclamation point on that season was a big win by Aaron Cook, a complete game, Shea Stadium. The guys had kind of done a big league season together. They had won together in the minor leagues, but they had never all been together at the same time in the major leagues. And for the second half of that season, they cemented themselves to one another. They realized they weren't good enough yet, but they felt they could be. And we played with just a different energy and a different vibe the second half of the season. And after that game, normally the last game of the season, you win, you go out and you shake hands, and, you come back and you go home. Everybody gets on the plane and everybody goes their own way. The shakes weren't just handshakes, they were hugs. And the entire team ended up out on the field in Shea Stadium saying goodbye to one another and talking to one another. And for some reason, even on the flight home, I can remember talking to Kelly and Billy Schmidt and Dan. Said something happened. I'm not sure what it was. Well, we go into the 07 season, and as he said, we were never out of it, we were never in it. But it was the team that was playing together, that was still learning, that had something to prove to the rest of the league that they were worthy and they were good enough. And I think our coaching staff did a fantastic job of giving them ownership of a lot of things, getting feedback from them in a lot of areas, from the hitting, from the fielding, from the pitching, the bullpen. We started playing our best team games ever. And we still weren't kind of good enough, as the record said. And you mentioned, 2 teams were going to win the division and 6 others were in front of us. However, we just kept talking about, this started early in the summer because the guys would look at me sometimes that looked like, we can't get our way in it. I go, guys, we haven't even got hot yet. We haven't been hot. And if you'll look at it, every month was a little over 500, a little under 500, which put us in the position we were in September. But we kept saying, I kept telling, we haven't got hot yet. Mm-hmm. Well, in my mind, we're running out of days. We're 2 weeks. The season's 2 weeks from ending. But I can remember even that day saying, hey, we haven't got hot yet. Guys, I'm just telling you, we haven't got hot yet. And whether they believed it or not, I don't know. But they never gave up. They never turned back. They never stopped playing. They never stopped playing for one another. And obviously the finish was incredulous. It was incredible. And we just won games. We beat people. And we beat them a different way every night. And the momentum started building. And by the end, it was a bunch of guys that showed up early, stayed late, and didn't think they were going to lose.
It was great. You win the series finale with Florida, with a key win in the second game of a doubleheader versus Los Angeles, thanks to a 2-run walk-off homer by Todd Helton. You then swept the 4-game series and improved to 81-72. Though still 4.5 back of frontrunner San Diego, there are just 5 teams ahead of the Rockies, 2 of whom will win their divisions. Up next, a 6-game road trip to San Diego and LA. Can you recall the team's mood, what inspiration they had, and was there a feeling of, hey, we're in this thing if we can win most of these games?
And it wasn't even a thought of winning most of these games. It was win tonight. They were really good at just playing the game today in front of them. And they almost kind of kept in their back pocket, somebody's going to win this game. Whether we're going to win it off the mound, whether somebody late is going to win it with a big hit, whether it's a glove. There were defensive plays made on that road trip. There was offensive standouts. There was pitching performances. Everybody threw something in. It truly was a complete effort by everybody on that roster. We had a lockdown bullpen all year long. If we had a lead after the 6th, I think our winning percentage was almost 87, 88%. It was a crazy number. The bullpen was locked solid. We had made a change in the closer situation earlier in the second half with Fuentes moving out, Corpus moving in. And one of the biggest shows of unselfishness was the way Fuentes took on the role of setting up Corpus and being another part of the bullpen. This was a guy who everybody in that bullpen, all they tried to do was get him the ball for years. He was an all-star multiple times and got in a hard spot. We made the move. Corpus steps in. He does a fantastic job. But if Fuentes doesn't do the job in front of him and show the energy to everybody else, to Affelt, to LaTroy, to, Matt, what was his name? Our reliever, long reliever. Last name. I'm drawing a blank, guys. Help me out here. First name was Matt. He's a pitching coordinator in the minor leagues. Anyway, we had a bullpen full of dogs that just wanted the ball, help out any way they could. But the offense, when you look at the way that team was built, you had power on the corners, you had speed and defense up the middle. It was like an old school blueprint that Dan had put together. Holiday and Hop on the corners, Helton and Atkins. You talk about guys that drive and runs, score runs. Torrealba, Matsui, Tulowitzki, and Taveras up the middle. Combination of speed and defense, all of them. It was a well-structured club that got hot and just refused to lose.
Sorry, again, Frog is back. So you sweep all 6 on the road. Colorado now is 87-72 with the last homestand against division-leading Arizona. But now you're just 1 back of the Padres for the wild card, and even with the Phillies and Mets. Arizona ends the Rocks' 11-game winning streak with a 4-2 win. By the way, the only game I ever scored at the end of September because I was busy with CU football, so call me your jinx. and they clinch a playoff spot with that win. The Padres beat Milwaukee, and Philly overtakes the Mets. Now you're 2 out of the wild card with 2 to play. Going into that last weekend with backs against the wall, do you recall what you may have said to the team or how you thought they'd respond to that challenge?
There wasn't a bunch of meetings late. The guys had the vibe, and they were the energy, and they were the voice. And whether it was Tulowitzki, Spielberg's, Hop, Josh Fogg played an integral part. Everybody played their role, and they just kept talking about, hey, we're not out of it. We're not mathematically eliminated. Until we're mathematically eliminated, we're in it. We're more than in it. We're going to make a difference in it. Matt Hergis, by the way, was the name of the pitcher I was thinking of. They would refuse to back down, and it would just kind of get closer where, they start smelling it. It's not 6.5 back. It's not 4.5 back. It's a couple back. And, that last weekend, the Padres are playing the Brewers, who have a good team, and we're playing, the Diamondbacks, and this could be exciting. Let's keep going one game at a time and see what happens.
The Rockies win on Saturday. The Padres lose at Milwaukee. The Phillies and Mets have the same record as Colorado, so the loser's out of the mix. You had to be scoreboard watching. San Diego's game at Milwaukee started an hour earlier, and they led 3-0 after an inning. But the Brewers scored 9 runs in the middle innings. They win 11-6. At the same time, back in Denver, the Rocks are tied with Arizona at 1-1 going into the 8th inning. Walkers through the excitement of Colorado scoring 3 in the bottom of the 8th and then holding on to win 4-3.
You said it earlier, scoreboard watching. Come on. There was no way around it, and except for maybe the guys playing defense because they couldn't see the scoreboard, but then you'd hear the crowd. Mm-hmm. There were so many people that brought radios in to listen to the opposing game. And you'd hear the crowd. It's kind of like back in the day when you'd have a baseball game, but a football game, the Broncos would score or the Avalanche would score. You'd hear the noise, and then you look to the board and you'd see the score change. So, yeah, everybody's watching the scoreboard. However, at the same time, it was like we all knew that we couldn't control that board. The only board that we could control was the game we were playing today, and we're not going to win if it's 1-1. And we're not going to win unless we score more runs. And we found a way to add on late, and we watched the other game finish the way it finished, which takes us into Sunday, which could not have been more exciting for anybody in a Rocky uniform or any fan of the Rockies at the time.
So a coin flip the previous week determined Colorado would be the home team in a 1-game playoff with the Padres. After the Rockies lit up Padre ace Jake Peavy for 6 runs in as many innings, San Diego tied the seesaw game at 6-all in the 8th inning and then took an 8-6 lead in the top of the 13th. A run-scoring double by Troy Tulowitzki, an RBI triple by Matt Holliday tied the score. Jamie Carroll comes to the plate, hits a fly ball to right. Holliday's racing home to beat the tag, giving the Rockies a 9-8 win in the wild card. Perhaps the signature moment among many during the run. Was this one of the most exciting games / plays you ever oversaw as a manager? It had to be a combination of pressure and yet fun.
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, it's your dream in the backyard when you're playing wiffle ball with your buddies. But it goes back. Paul Egan's was in charge of being a part of the coin flip. He called the coin flip. He got it right. Helton's home run off Saito, the second game of the doubleheader you talked about, that was an exclamation point because Todd never showed that much emotion in his entire career. And the way the team mobbed him, because the winter before, the one thing people don't talk about is there was talk of trading Todd to Boston over the winter. And Todd finally got to a point in place where he told the front office, you guys do what you need to do. I want to stay here. If I go to Boston, we win it there, yeah, that'd be kind of cool, but it would not be anywhere close to how cool it would be to win it here. He made that statement. Everybody kept Todd in place. We didn't trade him for Lowell and the other thing. And for that to play out, the way the young men on the team respected Todd and his influence, I mean, what was the nickname? Todd and the Toddlers for a long part of the season. But that last game, again, we got put in a hole. We're up, we're down, we're sideways. The umpires missed the call on I believe, a home run Atkins hit. They called it a ground rule double, which would have had the score would have been completely different. And nobody talks about the job that our relief pitcher who came in after we gave up the runs, the 2-run homer from Harrison, Roy Ortiz did to keep him right there. But it was kind of crazy because we're down, and then Alan Cockrell, as he always would, comes up to me at the bottom and says, "Hey, you want to take a strike, or do we need to get after him?" We had watched Hoffman get ready to pitch for 4 innings, and people say he was worn out. I don't buy that. He's a smart guy. He was not going to get hot till it was time to get hot and come in and close the game. Well, he got hot and came in, and I'm looking at Ace going, "This guy's hard to hit with 3 strikes. Let's just get after it. Tell him get a good pitch to hit and trust what they see and let it rip." And if you'll remember, it didn't take many pitches for that whole inning to play out. There was a lot of first pitch, second pitch hitting. Our guys were confident. Everybody in a uniform was on the top rail. It still was like we weren't going to lose. We weren't going to lose until we lost. And there was nobody thinking we've lost. Even after the home run, yeah, it was a little bit somber. But the guys couldn't wait for the team to get back into the dugout to see how we would respond offensively against one of the best closers ever in the history of the game. And sure enough, it played out the way it played out. Carroll was in as a defensive replacement for Atkins. All the noise in front of it ties the score. Then he's up with Holiday at third. And, the fly ball to right. And when it was hit, I didn't think Giles had a lot of momentum. But then once he caught it in the throw, and it's in the air, and I'm going, oh, my gosh, there's more arm strength than I thought. The throw carries the whole distance. Play at the plate, and this may have been the longest pause in the history of my career, was Tim McClellan watching the play unfold and waiting to see whether it was going to be out or safe. And then the ball trickles out, and you see that big wingspan from the big 6'6" umpire, safe, and that place erupted. And I've never been, at that time, I'd never been in a place where there was so much noise, so much jubilation, so much unbridled joy from so many different people, and it just spilled out onto the field. And the only guy that wasn't able to celebrate it was Holiday, because he's basically partially unconscious at the home plate still. But one of the most exciting, iconic moments in my career, and it meant so much to so many people. And really, the driving force behind all of this the entire time was Kelly McGregor. From day one, when he jumped in that president's chair, the way he led us all, Dan O'Dowd's involvement, the player development group in our minor leagues. There were so many fingerprints on this success. It was an organizational victory. Kelly even had the employees come down that were there for the game and celebrate with us in the locker room after the game. It was one of one at the time, no doubt.
Well, the Rockies went on to sweep Philadelphia in the division series and Arizona in the NLCS. 4 on the road, outscoring the 2 combined 34-16. The Rockies are now 21-1 over the previous 28 days. Incredible, just incredible, unprecedented, especially at that time of the year. Looking back, how satisfying was that? Did you ever get a feeling that some of the country had made the Rockies America's team outside, of course, of the World Series opponent, Boston?
Well, if I ever would have thought that, I was quickly reminded when we got to Philadelphia, because one of the sports writers actually asked me, "Who are you guys?" We snuck up on a lot of people. You play in the Mountain Time Zone, Mountain Standard Time. It's not LA. It's not Boston, Philly, Chicago. I think they heard a low roar or rumble, but they really never did the math. And when we showed up in Philly, they were like, one of the guys actually asked me, "Who are you guys?" And I basically had a very short response. I said, "Shame on you for not knowing who we are. We won our division, and we're here to play your team." Mm-hmm. And we're very respectful of the Phillies, but we think we can play a little baseball, and we're looking forward to doing that here.
You led Colorado to its only pennant and World Series appearance in franchise history. And despite losing to the Red Sox in this series, it remains the pinnacle season of the team. How proud are you of that?
Well, proud, yes. Honored and humbled, probably more so. Every time I came back to Coors Field as an opponent, you look at that flag. First thing I do when I come to the park is look at the flag, the National League Championship flag. To this day, it's bittersweet because you'd like for more. You'd like to see us win a division in 30 plus years of existence. You'd like to see us another, won the division, another trip to the playoffs. We did in, what was it, 17, 18 or 18 and 19? But to carry it through to be the National League champions, it's an accomplishment. To go to the World Series, it was an accomplishment. And as good a team as the Boston Red Sox were and as hot as they were, I would have loved to have played them with 1 or 2 days off rather than 8.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No excuse, but that did not help us by any stretch of the imagination having to wait 8 days to play.
Right.
No, you lose momentum. That happens in the NBA all the time too, when a team's got 8 or 10 days off.
Happens in the NFL with that 1 game bye when you have the best record.
So post Rockies, you managed the Pittsburgh Pirates and oversaw revitalization of the franchise, leading them to the playoffs for the first time in 21 years, and 3 years in a row at that. Do you still keep tabs on both the Rockies and Pirates?
Well, the Pittsburgh fan base, both of them I love, and I'm thankful I was a part of. You could not have picked 2 better stadiums to have as your office, your backyard, Coors Field and PNC Park. There's still a lot of love in Pittsburgh for my family, and I think for myself, the way people reach out. We did some special things there as well. 3 consecutive trips to the playoffs. You said we broke a 20-year consecutive losing streak. 21 years of playoff baseball. They haven't been back since. And the history in Pittsburgh is obviously deeper than that in Denver, but it's deeper than a lot of places, and the people that have played there, the men that have played there and worn that uniform, it goes back hundreds of years. So honored to be a part of that, honored to be a part of the Rockies history as well. So just thankful and grateful to the fans for their support, for the men that gave me opportunities to manage, Neil Huntington, Frank Coonley, the president and the GM in Pittsburgh, and of course, Kelly and Dan in Colorado, the ownership groups that supported us through all of it. But the fans are what makes it special. There's a lot of significance that happens along the way. But when I go back to Denver, even last year, getting back in the dugout for the hard year that we had, the people that reached out during the year, after the year, the people I see in the minor leagues when I travel, our minor league affiliates now, they still thank you for your effort. They thank you for the 07 season. Even when I get other places, the people in Pittsburgh, they still reach out. So I'm just a very blessed man to get to do it for 17 years at the major league level. I don't think anybody saw that one coming either.
No. You managed over 3,400 games over 23 seasons, played in 1,340 in 13 years in the majors and minors. Is there a one special memory or a couple that you're most proud of?
Well, 17 years as a major league manager in only 2 spots.
Unbelievable.
And never won a World Series. And my dad didn't own the team in either place. So, what I think is that I must have added value. The coaching staff that was with me must have added value to keep us in place for that long without winning the big trophy. We left the shed better than we found it when we came in. As iconic as the play-in game, 163, was in Colorado, the blackout game in 2013 against the Reds, when the fans started chanting Cueto and he dropped the ball and Marshall Martin hit the next pitch out, and we broke all those streaks. 20 consecutive years, that was 3 generations of people that had not seen a winning season. So 2 of the most iconic memories in franchise history in either place, I was a part of both of them. The 07 play-in game at Coors Field, and of course then the blackout game in 2013 at PNC. Forever grateful and thankful.
Going back to your Pirates days, you may remember you were nice enough to host myself and a friend at PNC Park. And when I was there, I fell in love with the place. Of all the stadiums you played or managed, did you have a favorite 2 or 3?
Well, I did. I grew up a Tiger fan because my dad loved the Yankees so much. I hated them. Didn't hate them, but my dad loved the Yankees, loved Mickey Mantle. We were in Michigan. I turned the radio on. I listened to Ernie Harwell. The Tigers are still my favorite team. My boyhood team, the Old English D. To manage as many games, to play as many games as I did in Tiger Stadium is incredible. To meet my boyhood idol, Al Kaline, and actually spend time with him, lunch, to spend time with Ernie Harwell at lunch, fantastic memories. The 2008 All-Star game at Yankee Stadium at the Cathedral, the last All-Star game at Old Yankee Stadium. They had the 49. I actually posted this on X the other day. We had the 49 living legends on the field pregame. And when they were coming off the field, the only way Willie McCovey could get off his wheelchair was the third base exit. They had a wheelchair access. All the living legends came off with Willie. I got to shake the hand of every living legend. And the fact that some of them called me by my first name, some of the National League guys, Ernie Banks. I mean, I played against Bench, played with Bench teammates, but so many of the guys that said, "Hey, Clint, go get them tonight. Hey, Clint, win one for the NL." The American League guys giving me noise. "Hey, we're going to beat your ass, son," or whatever. To have those men walk off and shake my hand, I told my dad I was in goosebumps. I didn't want to cry, but to have those guys that I had their baseball cards as a kid, I watched them play as a kid. And now here I am on the same field with them. They're walking off, and I'm getting ready to take a team on the field to play a game.
Surreal.
Yes, sir.
So to complete our mini "This Is Your Life," Clint Hurdle, you're keeping busy nowadays in several ways, most notably being a huge advocate for the Prader-Willi Syndrome Association, as you work very closely with them. You had a daughter born with it. Tell us a little about the foundation and how people that wish could possibly donate.
Well, I'm still the national spokesperson. Madison is 23 years old. And if it wasn't without the wonderful support in both cities, in Denver at the Children's Hospital and the Children's Institute in Pittsburgh, we wouldn't be where we are now in Madison's advocacy or his life, the outpatient services, the doctors, clinicians, therapists that we got to meet and that did things for our daughter that they just do because they love kids. It wasn't because her dad managed a team in either place. Forever grateful. But it's pwausa.org is the way you look it up. If you want to contribute, you want to learn more. I've got a website that'll take you to clinthurdle.com, which gets you my daily emails that I put out, which are free, but it'll also take you and give you more information on Prader-Willi syndrome. We are in a good place with Madison. She finished high school. She's swimming right now, getting ready for the Special Olympics this summer, end of summer. She did win the state 2 years ago, the 50-meter freestyle. She's now swimming freestyle and butterfly. She works at a dog store 3 days a week on the island. We got a couple dogs here. We got Benny the Jet, the new puppy. We got Willow, both Jack Russell Terriers, and we're actually daycaring another puppy named Daisy, another small Jack Russell. Maddie loves dogs. She's doing well. The Prader-Willi Syndrome Association, we hold a big fundraiser here every March called the Clint Hurdle Hot Stove, where we raise a significant amount of money in our eyes, usually $250,000 just about every year, to put towards funding families that don't have money to get their kids tested, to have therapies provided, to have counseling provided for the parents, because the syndrome affects everybody and the other siblings. So we're still in the advocacy phases. We're still trying to provide support through time, tithe, and just talents. And our son Christian is going to graduate next month from the Culinary Institute of America. He's already got his first job lined up as a pastry chef in New York City. Couldn't be more happy and excited for him. My oldest daughter Ashley has moved back to Merritt Island to be closer to my dad. My mom passed last August during a Pirate Rocky series of all things. I had to fly home on, but the timing, and God winked at us. But my mom was with my dad for 69 years married, 26 years retired. But she's now spending time with my sisters and my father over on the East Coast of Florida. So Carl and I are moving on. We're doing well. We're blessed. We're just trying to lend a helping hand where we can to others, especially with the Prader-Willi syndrome support that we give.
Clint, thank you for spending some time with us today. My own career began in 1974 with the Denver Bears. And I got to say, in all those years, I have met very, very few people who are as classy as you are. And that is the truth. You are really special.
Well, thank you very much.
And I'll always remember bringing Jeff Begdelic down the day we hired him, and somehow you arranged for him to throw out the first pitch.
Why not, right? Jeff's a good one.
Well, thanks, Clint. We really enjoyed having you on.
Thank you, man. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Well, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Pasta J's at 10th and Pearl Street off the downtown Boulder Mall, CU Sports Medicine, the Colorado Collegiate Chronicle, produced by occasional co-host and executive producer Tim Simmons, and the voice of the Buffaloes, Mark Johnson, for introducing each moment's number.
We do hope you are enjoying our podcasts, reminiscing with our trips down memory lane in the state's sports history. That's a wrap on our 41st podcast. A reminder that the Hall of Fame offers tours of its museum and the stadium, as well as Empower Field at Mile High.